This chapter was pretty interesting. A few surprising reveals, mainly the Shen Wulong aspect that I really wasn't expecting at this point in the story. But it was a pretty standard chapter given that the fight is currently already happening. But I will be proceeding with the breakdown of the chapter right now, which is called Never Underestimate. And the chapter starts off with, of course, both Jurota and Gaolang in the ring, staring each other off, getting ready. And of course they're taking off their coats or the extra stuff that they were wearing so that the fight can proceed. And I think this panel hits pretty hard, I'm not gonna lie. With of course the commentator actually making a point that usually boxing and judo characters are fodder tier characters in other series, mainly because their skills are somewhat recognized, at least to normal people. And so I think the commentator, at least in this case, is trying to build up their skills, even setting aside that they're probably the strongest in their field. The skills in which they have are also deemed pretty powerful. But while the stare down is happening and we have of course Rama, Carlos, Liu actually looking on, we actually cut over to Akiyama, who's seemingly calling Ohma, asking, well, why isn't Ohma here to watch? And Ohma is of course still training with Gaolang and says that he's probably putting that first right now. Actually, not probably, he is putting that first because his freedom is kinda on the line here. This does confirm that of course we won't be seeing Ohma in the crowd or anything like that, but also Akiyama seems to be worried on the other side of the phone. But of course Ohma reassures her and says that he is joking, which he isn't, and asks for Akiyama to actually call him back when the matches are over. I guess he just wants to know who won. And after he drops the call, we actually see what might be the most surprising reveal in this chapter, and that is Ohma and Wulong, Shen Wulong, are sitting together in the middle of the woods, with Ohma asking of course Wulong, hey, why aren't you watching the matches? And of course Wulong says that he actually did initially have a plan to go over there, but has put that off just so he can come and talk to Ohma specifically, calling it a heart-to-heart situation. And Ohma's like, it's pretty dodgy of you to come all the way over here, because again, he is sneaking up on Ohma, it seems. And that's how the situation is sort of framed, because Wulong is like, yeah, I have pretty good footwork, it is what it is, it's one of the things I'm good at. But after that, of course, Ohma does invite Shen Wulong to dinner when of course Kuroki Gensai comes back with some bear meat. So Kuroki seems to be hunting some bears, it seems. But Shen Wulong then remembers that of course he had told Yan that they should both go to the Real Champions tournament to watch it together, and Yan is stranded. My man Yan, I feel bad for him. I think there isn't a single person at this point who does not feel bad for Yan, because Shen Wulong, he just gives him the runaround so much. I am very interested in hearing the reason why Shen Wulong wants to talk to Ohma at this point, because what more can be said? Is he going to be teaching him a few more techniques, a little bit more on principles, or is there something else that Shen Wulong wants to talk about? Maybe he wants to talk a little bit about, of course, Koga, because that is a pretty big topic floating around, right? So I hope we get that reveal at some point, because there's probably a very specific reason that Shen Wulong is delaying, of course, watching the Real Champions tournament with Yan for now. However, we then cut back, of course, to the match itself, seeing the referee, who is Anna, and of course the commentators. Jerry is still probably one of the golden commentators of these matches, with Katahara as the announcer. With that, the match then begins and Gaolang goes in fast and just puts a huge rain of jabs on Jurota. But Jurota does something pretty odd, and that is that he just takes the jabs, and he's not even flinching while taking those hits, although there are a lot of those type of hits. Like, man, Gaolang is pretty fast, And I think the manga does a pretty good job at illustrating like how ridiculous his jabbing speed actually is. And he continues again just raining down jabs on Jurota, but Jurota seems to be waiting for something. And then of course after raining down a few jabs, he throws a specific jab but then flinches at the last second and takes that jab back. Basically he cancels the jab. And of course the commentators are like, oh, it seems as though Jurota was probably waiting for that specific jab. And the commentators seem to be right in this case. Gaolang does note to the fact, at least he's thinking about it, that if he had completely thrown that jab, he would have gotten thrown. Which is a situation, of course, Gaolang wants to avoid, since it would probably result in a lot of damage, and of course, it's Jurota's specialty. Gaolang's game plan is probably to avoid getting thrown. And we see the pressure, of course, Jurota is putting on Gaolang, because the stakes are pretty high. One throw could potentially be all it really takes for the match to start swinging in Jurota's favor. But of course, Gaolang goes on throwing on jabs again, but this time he throws them even faster and is landing them directly on Jurota's face and is hitting him pretty hard. We can even see that he's of course surprised that he's being hit, meaning that of course Gaolang has probably upped the speed of his jabs. And of course we get to hear Jurota actually note to this in his head, how of course Gaolang is now going at his full speed and that he had fooled him with the speed that he was showcasing earlier. We then cut to of course Rama saying that they should not, Jurota should not underestimate his sword or their sword, and that Gaolang should cut loose, with of course him now landing a pretty heavy right on Jurota, ending the whole chapter. Man, it seems as though of course things are going in Gaolang's favor in this chapter, in the fight so far, but of course this is just the beginning of the fight. And most people, of course, even though I'm pretty sure Gaolang stands are happy, most people are like, yeah, Jurota's probably gonna start figuring something out and Gaolang is gonna start struggling after a while. But it seems as though Gaolang's strategy is pretty simple. Well, just strike at, of course, Jurota and just make sure you don't get thrown. That's really about him. Knock him out, or more specifically, yeah, knock Jurota out before he actually throws you as fast as possible. And I think at this point, this was a pretty good opportunity for Gaolang to just take him out of the equation completely while he still can, before of course Jurota gets used to the speed of his jabs and such. But of course we'll get to see the rest next week. So yeah, if you like the review and breakdown, don't forget to like and sub, and until next time, take it easy.